Hey everyone, in today's video, we're going to cover follow-up strategies. So we're going to talk about when you should follow up with your leads and when you should not follow up with your leads. Lots of agents make mistakes here, okay? We're going to talk about recommended processes for your follow-ups so that you can define a follow-up process for yourself and just managing your pipeline so that no lead falls through the cracks, okay? Now, first off, before we dig in there, I want to make it clear. This business, it's a one-call close, okay? The goal is to get a clear answer when you make a presentation, okay? Either a yes, let's move forward and apply, or no, I'm not interested, which are the two best answers you can get. A follow-up is the worst thing that you can get, right? I just want to make that clear here. If you're getting a lot of follow-ups, it's an indicator that you need to work on your presentation and or communication skills, okay? You're really just not providing the clarity that our prospects need to make a decision, or you're not building enough rapport there, right? So again, the goal is to not have a follow-up here, all right? The more follow-ups you have, and I want you guys to really, really let this sink in here, okay? The more follow-ups you have, the less efficient you become, okay? Because most of your follow-ups are stringing you along and they won't buy from you. And you're putting a lot of effort into them. You're carving out a lot of time in your day to prepare yourself for a call for a follow-up that doesn't pick up. And you're doing that multiple times. And it kind of weighs on you, right? As part of the business. So if you can just define a process, which we're going to go over in this video, that's going to help you a lot. But remember, the goal is to not have a follow-up. Get a clear answer on the phone, okay? So that's what this video is about. So let's dig in here. So when should you follow up? All right. Anytime that you presented a rate, that means you made a full presentation and they have all the information they need. And there are some instances where you didn't present a rate that you may be tempted to follow up. In this case, a good heuristic that we use is to ask yourself the question, would you drive an hour based on the conversation you just had? The presentation you just gave, the conversation you just had, would you just drive an hour to follow up on that person? If yes, go ahead and follow up with them. If no, don't set that follow-up. You need to protect your time here, okay? This should weed out a lot of those who you're following up with that you shouldn't be, because the efficiency you'll gain by just not following up with people who never intended to buy, who, you know, will help you even further be more profitable in this business, okay? You also want to follow up with all missed payments, okay? Both pending lapses and lapses. These are action takers, guys. These are people who already trusted you enough to take action, be there for them, and always follow up with them. And of course, follow up with all your referrals. Do not follow up with those who you didn't present rates to, okay? I find a lot of agents are calling the call me back laters, okay? So if you get somebody who just picks up the phone, you're outbound dialing, somebody says, I'm calling back later, stick them back in your dialer cadence, but do not set a follow-up task to call on those, okay? We need to protect our time here, and we need to limit the amount of people that we follow up with to have a more efficient business here. Follow-ups need to earn your time, right? Not every opportunity deserves a spot on your calendar, okay? Preserve those, right? Don't chase ghosts. You qualify fast and focus where the real opportunity lies, okay? And in order to focus on the real opportunity, we need to follow up efficiently. And to do that, you need to follow up with a defined process. So here's a basic follow-up standard operating procedure, SOP, what we call it internally here, that we recommend for life insurance telesales agents, okay? This is what we use in our call centers, right? So guys, no follow-ups longer than 3 business days in the future. Okay? Urgency fades fast. The longer you wait, the colder the lead gets. Life gets in the way with these people, okay? What felt like a priority during the call, you got all that information, you built up all that urgency, you built up the emotion, all that stuff. What felt like a priority during the time they were in the moment starts feeling optional after a few days, okay? Don't let it get there. Don't let life get in the way where that kind of just starts fading away, okay? Insist to follow up in the next day if you can. Try to follow up tomorrow. If not tomorrow, yeah, in 2 days, max 3 days, okay? If it's worth a follow-up, it's worth doing within 3 days. After that, it's not really a follow-up anymore. It's more like a recovery mission, all right? Have that urgency when you are setting follow-ups. Okay, draw that line in the sand there. Okay. So also, you should take great notes in your CRM so you can reference it quickly. Guys, make it easy to make your follow-up calls. Many agents spend too much time preparing for their follow-ups only for them to not pick up the phone. Then they do that over and over and over again, right? So just take great notes that you can scan while you're dialing the follow-up. You shouldn't spend more than a couple moments just reviewing the file as you're dialing out there. Don't get in your head here. If you take really good notes and you can reference them and you put them in a way that works for your brain and how you can just see what the important notes that you need to see, however you do that, just come up with a process for that and put those notes in the CRM so that you can reference them for your follow-ups, okay? And you also want to walk them through adding you as a contact in their phone. All right. Not a lot of agents are doing this. They do this after the sale. Agents are starting to do this, but what about for follow-ups? Okay. By doing this, guys, you're building familiarity. Okay. We don't put many people as contacts in our phones unless it's friends or family. I can't think of somebody in my phone that I've put in here that's not friends or family. Right. Guys, it sets the tone that you're their agent and you're there when they're ready. Okay. You're not another salesperson now. You're in their phone next to Uncle Rico, right? You're right there with everybody they trust and they know. Okay. So have them save it as like, if it's me, Jeff Root Life Insurance, right? So you're even labeled there. Guys, it's a 1-minute move that has a significant impact on getting your call answered as well. Okay. All right. And this is a big one, guys. And I may get a lot of pushback on this one, but this is what we do. Okay. And I'll give you the reasons why. We only call 3 times before it moves to a monthly check-in. Okay. In fact, in our call center, we don't even do monthly check-ins. For independent agents, I recommend doing monthly check-ins. Okay. So no more than 3 attempts over 3 days. Don't even do those 3 attempts over a week or 2 weeks. Do them back to back to back over the course of 2 to 3 days. Okay. You need to cut bait quickly to focus on better opportunity. That's what this business is about. Okay. Your revenue producing activities, it needs to be efficient. Okay. So if it's been 3 times, set it out 30 days and stick them in a monthly follow-up. All right. Just having that line in the sand where you draw it will help with your efficiency. Okay. 3 attempts and set it out to 30 days and keep setting it out 30 days if they're not answering. All right. And then sticky note it as a monthly follow-up in your call queue so you're aware, hey, this is a monthly follow-up. It's not one of the more urgent, follow-ups that are the 3-day ones. This is a monthly follow-up, still worth your time. But you can sticky note your CRM so that you're aware. Guys, when I was producing, I called all my monthly follow-ups in a single dial session, and it was one of the most productive dial sessions that I had all month. That was just my process. I didn't know any better. I like this process better. But guys, there's sales in there. Those monthly follow-ups, there are sales in there, okay? As long as you qualified them as a good opportunity, right? Because you may get to end of a presentation, you give them rates and they say to follow up, but you can also determine right there if it should even go into your follow-ups, okay? If you get good at that, then you'll be much more efficient on the phones because you guys, you don't want to chase these ghosts, okay? Do not chase ghosts. You have to be good at qualifying the people who you are following up with, okay? So now you need to have a system, okay? You have the, who you follow up with, who you don't follow up with, and the process on how you follow up with them, right? That's all defined. And guys, I recommend everyone has a defined process here and stick to it, okay? But now you need to have a system to manage your pipeline, and that system is your CRM, okay? Every day you should clear out your 4 call queues. In Digital BJ, we have 4 call queues in our technology, okay? And that's your lead queue, your follow-up queue, your sales made queue, and your in-force queue, okay? If you're on top of all of your leads in pipeline, there shouldn't be any tasks due in any of these queues. It should look like the image right here. Okay. Guys, at this point, you know, without a doubt, you're on top of your entire pipeline and no lead or opportunity is falling through the cracks. So let me define each of these queues. Okay. So you have your lead queue. That's all attempting contacts and referrals are in there. If you're outbound dollar, that's where all those go. Okay. Your follow-up queue is all your quoted and not sold. Those people who were just talking about, right? Who we're following up with, who you deemed as qualified to follow up with, gave them a full presentation, or they passed that heuristic, right? Would you drive an hour to see them? Right. That's your follow-up queue. And you want to empty that out every single day. Okay. So you should go into your follow-up queue, have a list of follow-ups for the day. And at the end of the day, that should be empty. Same thing with your lead queue. If you're outbound dialing, it should display the next best lead to call based on how you set it up. And we do that for digital BG agents. We have it set up how it's supposed to be the most effective. And that should be empty every single day. That means you're calling your leads and no lead is falling through the racks. Okay. Then you have your sales made queue. Sales made queue, all sales without confirmed first payment, right? So you made a sale, it goes into sales made queue, right? But there hasn't been a confirmed first payment yet. It has not placed. It needs to go in your sales made queue. These are all the sales you've made, right? You also have your pending lapses and your lapses in there. Okay. This is your service work as well. These are sales you made that you need to follow up with, whether it's just confirming first payment or whatnot. Okay. Then you have enforced queue. If you confirm the first payment, then it goes into your enforced queue. Okay. These are all enforced policies with a successful first draft. Guys, I cannot stress how important it is to have an organized pipeline with a defined process. All right. For life insurance, this is it. Lead queue, follow-up queue, sales made queue, enforced queue, defined by each of those, what I just said. Okay. So here's how these queues work to effectively manage your pipeline. So, for example, when you make a sale, you disposition it as, approved or issued or signed and submitted, right? Signed and submitted is if it's no one's decision, or maybe you just sent it out for signature and you haven't received it back yet, right? Whatever disposition you want to, whatever disposition it is, right? So you have that. And so that you want to change the task due date to 10 days after the first payment date if you have an approved or issued policy, right? So you want to confirm first payment and then status it to enforce if it is confirmed. Like, okay, first payment went through, now it's enforced. Great. Now it goes to your enforced queue. Okay. But I want you to understand, guys, your pipeline doesn't end with a sale, right? Goes to a sales mid queue. But then you need to follow a process here and define that process and get through that queue every single day, right? Make a dummy proof for you to know that you're checking on the initial premium payment of every sale. If you're not doing that, your placement rate is probably in the 50%, low 60%. Okay. Get those placement numbers up, follow up with every sale to make sure the payment went through, and make it so you never forget to do it. Okay. Just set the task date out. Okay. And we say 10 days. People, a lot of people think, hey, if you're sending it 10 days out, that's too long. But a lot of these carriers, it takes them a good week for it to accurately say that. A lot of them will say, hey, successful payment made, but then a week later, they'll reverse it because it actually wasn't made. So that's why we say 10 days later for that. Of course, if you get a missed payment notification from the carriers that will email you or notify you of it, then call them before the 10 days, of course, when you get that. But this is just to make sure nothing falls through the cracks, right? Okay. So you have your enforced queue. People are like, why would you have an enforced queue? People, but that's, if somebody's in your enforced queue, right? You marked it as enforced. The first payment was made. Now that's a trigger for you to to call them and let them know their policy is active, to make sure they receive their policy, to confirm the beneficiary information, ask if they have any questions, make sure they save your number in their phone, right? Walk them through that. You're their new life insurance guy. It's going to say Jeff Root Life Insurance in their phone. You are there for them. Easy to contact you if they have any questions or if they need help with making a payment. Maybe they have running into some issues this month making a payment. They can call you instead of just letting it lapse. Okay. So, you make sure you tell them that you are their agent for life. This is where you ask for referrals. And then you set a follow-up for 1 year out to check in with the policy review. Some people like to check in 6 months later. That's fine. Set it for 6 months if that's your process. Again, these are just examples of what you should do and what these cues should look like. Okay. So all this to say, guys, is I just encourage everyone in this business to have a defined follow-up process. Draw that line into the sand of who gets to, gets into your follow-up process, number one, how many times they get called, right? And just stick to a process in your CRM and have your CRM execute that process for you. You shouldn't have to think about the people you have to follow up with and if you followed up with them or not, right? Your CRM should tell you. It should serve those opportunities up to you, okay? It sounds so simple. It really does, but most agents don't have this process defined and adhered to, okay? So remember, follow-ups need to earn your time, okay? Don't chase ghosts, qualify fast, follow up smart, and focus on the best opportunities in your pipeline.